So this video is going to be a little bit tough to talk about because I like to keep it positive. I like to actually give people hope that as long as you believe in your dream, as long as you work hard, your dreams will come true eventually. And yet, in this video, we are talking about transitioning out of animation and games development. So, what happens to those people that need to pivot to another industry because their dreams didn't become reality? This is what we're going to talk about in this video. And if that sounds interesting to you, come join me and let's do this. Alright, so I'm going to go straight into it because it's a heavy topic. So let's be real. We all love this industry. If you're here watching my content, most likely you either came from a gameplay background or you want to get into gameplay, into games, or you're an animator that actually wants to get into animation, or you're in VFX or film and wants to get into those industries. And those industries are incredibly creative. And also when you see the behind the scenes in these films and you actually see how much fun people are having, you want to actually be a part of this world. You want to make sure that you actually live the dream. And I don't blame you because I felt exactly how you feel a long time ago before I joined the games industry. Now, things have changed quite a bit since I started, and I'm going to publish, and this is not a plug, but I'm going to publish a book next year that is going to go in depth into the games industry specifically. And in the book, I talk about how the industry has changed since I started in the early 2000s. And it's incredible to think about it because even though those times in many ways were harder because you had to work longer hours, crunch was basically standard, and basically the games you would take a long period of time to make. He felt in retrospect that we were living the good times. And at this point in time, I feel like we actually are in an intersection that we are living through this change in the games industry and the VFX industry and the film industry. And it's difficult to pinpoint and find out exactly which one is the right way to go. And yet, back in the day, it was easy for you to find a job and stay in that job and stay in that company for 5-10 years, and that be the norm, right? And what happens nowadays for many students and many people that I've been talking to, including experienced people, is that you either lose your job or you're looking for a job and you apply to like hundreds of places and you get no answers. And as a result, frustration sets in and you need to basically find something. And you spend all of this time working incredibly hard on your show reel to make sure that it's as good as possible, to make sure that it gives you the best possibility possible. And yet nobody comes back to you after all this hard work. And it's heartbreaking to actually feel that way. And I felt that way, and I don't think it's in any way as big as it is nowadays, but I do remember how it felt to actually apply to absolutely everywhere and getting no answers or getting a no thanks answer. So, when you go through all that, and you actually have been through so much, you need to start thinking about looking out for yourself. And there was a point in my career that I was just about to leave before I got my first job. And I was genuinely thinking, okay, so if I'm not going to make it into animation, into games, then I need to find something that gives me as much bang for buck, like a lot of money that I might not enjoy, but at least I can make a really good living because I feel like I want to live a good life. And this is where you have to decide where to pivot and where to go. And this post is inspired by Jackie. She has an amazing Instagram account called Let's Talk Tunes. You should definitely give it a follow, link down below. In this short, she was talking about animators needing ideas to pivot out of animation and into better places. So let's talk about a couple of examples on people that actually either transitioned or thought about transitioning out of animation because it was a little bit too much. So the first example is Hasim Cod. I found a post on LinkedIn that basically talked about Hasim actually being disillusioned with animation at this point, and it was time to take a break and look for another opportunity. Now I find that at this point in time, Hasim is still looking for jobs. However, I think that his post really summarizes some of the feelings that people have towards the end when they're thinking about pivoting their careers. And the second one is Jonathan Baker, that here states that he's 55 years old and he's thinking for the first time to change and pivot to another place, to another career, for the first time in his many years in the industry, and that finding jobs now is more difficult than ever. I'll link those below so you can actually have a read. Definitely give them a follow if you can, and if you know of any jobs, definitely help them out. But it's just to illustrate the problem that we have right now. This is just 2 examples out of many examples that I've seen on both LinkedIn and also Twitter. All this to illustrate why highlighting this topic is so important, and I don't think we should dodge it. Now, let's highlight some of the resources that you have out there to not only make you feel better, but also to give you ideas on what kind of things can you do outside of this industry that we love. Now, the first resource that I want to highlight here is the Animation Career subreddit. It's really powerful, has lots of ideas, and the most important thing here is very much that if you're looking to actually get a career in animation, this is a subreddit that you should follow. Lots of great ideas, lots of great advice. Obviously, like everything, Reddit, some things is good, some things are bad, but regardless, you should definitely check it out because there's a lot of information here. Also, there's a lot of motivation as well. So one of the biggest and best posts that I found in this subreddit was definitely this by Salty Animator, where he has an Excel spreadsheet that he put together called Successful Exit Collection. And this is an amazing Excel sheet for anybody out there that is very much on the negative side that we just talked about, that is thinking about pivoting careers, that is seriously thinking I had enough, perhaps I need to find something else. And I think that this should definitely be a bookmark in your browser for you to kind of like revisit every so often. It gets updated every so often for people, is anonymous as well. Now, I'm going to go into why it's so powerful in the end, but first, let's analyze the list. So we have a few columns here, and the first one is definitely how many years you have in the industry. As you can tell, people are experienced here, 7 years, 10 plus years. A lot of people with lots of years of experience actually sharing their experience here. Talking about when they specifically left the industry. As you can tell, also because the last 2 to 3 years have been brutal. 2025, 2023, 2024, it's been basically the last 3 years or so that people have been leaving the industry. And then they talk about their role, like exactly what they used to do and where they transitioned to. Now, you don't only have animation and game development here, but you can have a lot of art, as you can tell. Illustrators, modelers, lighting artists, 2D animators, compositing artists, and so on and so forth. Now, the transitioning part, I think, is the most important one because it gives you ideas on what you can actually aspire to be. And I think that if you're anything like me, sometimes you pigeonhole yourself to think that I only want this and this is all I want and there's no other way for me to have this, and this is like, is this or nothing? And I do think that it's really positive for you to open your mind a little bit to find out about other experiences and things that are out there, because for every single one of these things that people pivot to, in that industry, people actually had dreams to get to that industry, if that makes sense. So people dream to be accountants, they dream to be, I don't know, lawyers and doctors. And even though it might not be something that we'd be like, oh, this is amazing, for us it's like, it's hard work, I would never want to be that. However, for a lot of people out there, these are dreams careers. So I do think that once you click into that new career, I think you will find the new list of life on that new dream, if that makes sense. So lots of different options here, lots of different ideas. Paralegal, I'll never see that, going from being a background painter to then going to a paralegal, incredible. Engineer, cybersecurity analyst, banks, data analysts, tattoo artists as well, realtor, amazing, right? Now the next column talks about how you got that job. And then, are you happy in this job? And this is another column that I think is really important because, once again, if you're anything like me, I couldn't see myself at my younger age happy with anything else except for animation or illustration. Those are the 2 options that I had. And as you can see here, that most people say yes about their happiness in their new jobs, which tells me, and hopefully you, that Even though it might be hard to wrap your head around changing careers, that once you do, things seem much better. Because after all, a job is a job. And even though your dream job, when you start working and have to work 8 hours a day and 40 hours a week, it just becomes a job. So this is what people are saying for the most part. And then there is this bit, which I think that is the most inspiring bit, when they talk about how they pivot and what they thought about the pivot and what they thought about their new life. I think this is really inspiring, and I read a bunch of them, and I think that even for me, that I feel like I found my dream job and I found I was lucky to be here. Even for me, looking at these makes me feel like there is a world outside of game development and animation that I am not seeing, and it's really cool to see all these comments. Now, as a closing statement, if you are in this dark place where you think that you tried everything and nothing is working, and you feel like everybody else around you is successful, but you are the only one that is not being successful, know that you're not alone, as you can see by this list. There's lots of people going through it, and I, a lot of the time, felt alone in this journey, because animation is a lonely journey initially, because you're just working for yourself and working on that work, and that's sure real. Same thing with games development. So know that you're not alone, first and foremost. And second, you giving up that dream that you've been pursuing for the last few years or last, lifetime, doesn't mean that you actually, like, your life or your dream is kind of over. It just means that you're pivoting to a new dream. And I think that's important for you to understand. And this is why these comments are so useful, because I think that most people are saying that it's never too late to change. And once you do, you'll see that actually things are not as bad as you thought. And you might actually find more satisfaction in what you're going to do outside of that dream place that you had before. So I'm with you here in this channel, and I hope you found value in this video, and I hope that you found also hope in some of these things that people are doing in the community, because I think this is wonderful, this is amazing. And I think that having a bookmark like this and the work that Salty Animator has done in this spreadsheet is absolutely incredible, and so is the Animation Career Reddit. So go and check it out, links down below, comment down below how you feeling if you are in the dark place. Happy to talk to you guys as usual, and until the next one, stay well, stay safe, peace.
If you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, go ahead and hit the like button. If you super enjoyed it, leave a super thanks. It's like leaving a little tip, and it directly supports the channel. If you haven't already, subscribe and turn on post notifications so you can continue to see my videos and get your weekly dose of betterness.